Welcome back to the Deep Dive. This is our fourth installment in the Trust Crash series, and today we are really getting into it. We're not just looking at the digital world, we're sort of wading into the economic theory behind all this informational chaos.
It's more than chaos, though. It's
Yeah.
it's an optimization strategy. We're looking at a world where, low-effort noise doesn't just get in the way of high-stakes policy.
Yeah.
It actively outperforms it. I mean, in terms of actual, measurable, immediate impact, it's basically digital economic nihilism at its purest.
Absolutely. I mean, think about our entire economy.
Mhm.
It's built on these really complex, abstract ideas, right?
Mhm.
Like fiat money. The value of paper currency is, well, it's literally backed by nothing but faith. So if you take that same idea of faith and you apply it to politics, our sources today are looking at the exact point where that faith just collapses.
Mm.
Because the currency of information is now so ridiculously cheap to make.
We're talking about a reality where the value of, say, an ancient piece of paper, that promissory note that supports a trillion-dollar bond market, has the same intellectual weight in a public debate as a terribly photoshopped picture of a politician looking confused.
Right.
And the really disturbing part, only one of those things costs billions of dollars and years of bureaucratic headache to regulate, and the other one seems to cause an immediate, actual governing crisis.
That is the collision our sources are getting at. It's fascinating, almost dystopian. We've got quantitative studies with, verifiable case examples from the Chilean constitutional plebiscites in 2022 and 2023.
And we're pairing that with these systematic reviews of global algorithmic trends. Specifically, we're going to get into YouTube's recommender system.
So I guess our mission statement today is to analyze exactly how these incredibly cheap digital tools have become these massive instruments of political and social destabilization.
We're drawing a very deliberate line between the zero-cost nature of modern disinformation and the very precarious, very high-cost state of our collective trust. It's the arbitrage opportunity of our century. You can get infinite political returns for, zero intellectual or financial investment.
Okay, let's start with the ultimate case study in this trust inflation, Chile. The data here really gives us the mechanics of the chaos machine. We're looking at a study of 237 documented cases of disinformation that were verified by these local platforms, Mala Espinacek and factcheck.cl. And this was all during two really high-stakes constitutional votes. So where did the fight actually happen?
Well, it happened entirely in the attention space, not in traditional media. The study found that the overwhelming majority of the electoral disinformation, we're talking a massive 85.2%.
85%.
85.2%. It circulated exclusively on social media. Traditional media outlets, newspapers, TV, they were a tiny fraction of the volume.
That number, 85.2%, that's not just a data point. It's the structural collapse of media gatekeeping. It's done.
It is.
It means the political battlefield has completely, irreversibly moved to platforms that are built for speed and virality and, emotional reaction, not for journalistic vetting.
And speed is the single biggest enemy of context. It's why we have things like confirmation bias and anchoring bias. When stuff moves that fast, your brain just defaults to what's easiest to believe. Our sources actually call this the truth a la carte problem.
Truth a la carte.
It's like a menu.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You get served information that just confirms what you already think. It's democratic fast food. It's, low friction consumption of whatever reality your side prefers.
And the brilliance of it, or I guess the terror of it, is in the sourcing. Who's actually making this 85% of chaos? It's not who you'd think.
This is the truly shocking economic insight for me. The analysis showed a number that should honestly terrify any security analyst. 84%.
84.
84% of the disinformation cases came from what they call diffuse sources. What does that even mean, diffuse?
It means the origin was unidentified, untraceable, unknown. A measly 15% came from public figures or institutions you could actually name.
Let's just stop on that. 84% coming from nowhere. That is the genius of the entire operation.
Yes.
Because if 84% of your chaos is generated by some untraceable source, a bot, an anonymous account, whatever, you can't fight back. You can't legislate against it. You can't sue a diffuse source.
You certainly can't sanction a bot network in another country. It's just pure, untraceable noise designed to be politically paralyzing.
And it creates this debilitating feeling that the system is breaking down, but it never gives you a concrete enemy to actually fight.
Right. When the source is anonymous, the distrust isn't aimed at a political opponent. It's aimed at the entire infrastructure. It makes it feel like the system is just failing under its own weight, which, feeds this really corrosive nihilism. It's like trying to fight a fire where the smoke is the only thing that's actually burning.
And if we look at the economy of effort, the format itself tells the whole story. This is a low-cost production model built for maximum social spread.
Absolutely. The study breaks down the formats, and it found that disinformation was mostly presented as an image. That's about 39.7%, and just simple text, 31.2%.
That's low-cost production 101. It's designed for instant, zero-effort consumption on a phone screen.
It's the dollar menu of democracy disruption, as you said.
Exactly. You get the most audience engagement for the lowest possible production cost.
Ah.
You don't need a deepfake artist or a film crew. You just need a bad screenshot, maybe a slightly twisted slogan, and like 5 minutes in a free editing app.
And the sources explicitly confirm this economic driver. They say photography is the most popular method precisely because it is low cost.
Right.
Video and audio, which take more investment time, equipment, editing, they were way less common, only about 25.7%. The whole strategy is about capital maximization. Minimize your input to maximize the audience's confusion.
And this brings us to that fundamental mismatch that fact-checkers everywhere are facing. They're fighting this industrial-scale, homemade chaos with, artisanal, time-intensive rigor.
The cost difference is just absurd. It defines the information war. To fight that cheap, low-effort image chaos, the verification teams had to use these really expensive, laborious methods. Think about the breakdown. 38.4% of their work was just time-consuming reverse image searches.
Just trying to find where the original photo came from.
Right. And another 38.8% involved reviewing extensive official documents to verify some policy claim.
So a single misleading image that took someone 30 seconds to make requires a fact-checker hours, maybe days, of specialized labor and access to databases just to debunk it. It's an asymmetric war driven by brutal basic economics.
The energy it takes to dismantle the lie is exponentially greater than the energy it took to create it.
Which is why the lies always win the attention war.
Always. The speed of creation just outpaces the speed of verification every single time. By the time the meticulous fact check is published, the lie has already been seen by millions of people, anchoring that first false reality into their minds.
Let's get a little deeper on the type of lie. The study uses this typology from Wardle and Diraction. And this is critical. The disinformation was mostly misleading content and imposter content. It wasn't usually, completely fabricated stuff.
That's a really crucial distinction that gets lost. Why is misleading content so much more common than, say, a deepfake? Because misleading content is based on a kernel of truth. You take a real photo or a real quote and you just twist its context. It's much harder to debunk completely because you can't just say the image is fake. You have to explain the nuanced misinterpretation of the image, which is boring.
So they don't even have to invent a whole new reality. They just have to bend the existing one by about 10 degrees.
Yeah.
And imposter content is just as insidious, right? Impersonating a news source or a government account to exploit trust that's already there.
And look at what they were targeting. The themes were mostly the procedures of the constitutional processes and the elections themselves. The process itself is the main target.
They don't just want you to disagree with the policy.
No. They want you to believe the entire democratic mechanism, how votes are counted, how rules are made, is fundamentally corrupt or just incompetent.
So if you can inject enough cheap, misleading content into the procedures, you erode confidence in the whole system, no matter who wins. That's why we're seeing this hyperinflation of distrust. Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, because we're going to move from the cold, hard stats to one specific low-effort example that had immediate, high-level political consequences. We're moving into the Photoshop parallel, where a joke forces a minister to react.
Yes, the specific anecdote with the Chilean Minister of Education, Nicolas Cataldo, is a perfect illustration of this value collapse. His political rivals used this really crudely edited parody video to try and destabilize him politically.
Okay, describe this digital masterpiece for us, because the lack of sophistication is part of its genius, right?
It is. The video was produced by the opposition party, the UDI, and it was basically political satire. It showed Minister Cataldo neglecting his actual job. Things like rising school dropout rates, a huge national crisis, or falling math skills, to focus entirely on working for the presidential campaign of another candidate.
And it wasn't subtle. It was full of these very specific political Easter eggs and caricatures that only politically engaged people would get.
Exactly. For example, they used a tattooed arm to represent the president himself, which was a direct visual shorthand to link Cataldo to the current administration. It used humor and these instantly digestible visuals to land a really targeted, high-stakes political punch.
And the reaction showed how much impact it had.
The immediate reaction, yeah. Minister Cataldo felt he had to publicly condemn it. He called it the most similar thing to bullying. His party came out swinging, saying he was this hardworking asset who worked 24/7. This cheap joke forced a high-level public defense of his entire professional character.
That's the high-cost reaction to the low-cost input. The energy the government spent defending him, the media cycles consumed, all of it generated by something that took an intern maybe an hour to put together.
But the political irony goes even deeper when you realize what the strategic goal was. It wasn't just to make him look lazy, it was a tactical move to block his career.
Explain that. How do you weaponize a joke like that? What was the end game?
The strategic objective was crystal clear to analysts. It was to politically block Minister Cataldo from joining the presidential campaign's command team. He was seen as a real asset who could boost the campaign, and the opposition wanted him kept out of that role.
So the video was a trap. The only way for Cataldo to disprove the accusation that he was already neglecting his job for the campaign
Was to publicly recommit to his job and stay in government, focusing on the very duties the video accused him of ignoring.
Wow.
Exactly. A single low-effort parody video, which falls into that tiny 0.4% category of parody or satire in the study, immediately forced this complex, high-level political calculation about cabinet roles and campaign staffing. Zero-cost visual jokes achieved a tangible, high-stakes political goal.
And the absurdity was so obvious that even his opponents started turning on each other.
It was. A senator from the UDI, the party that made the video, publicly condemned it as an unacceptable lack of respect that trivializes politics. He actually demanded a public apology from his own party. Even the people who made the chaos understood how corrosive it was.
They achieved their goal blocking Cataldo, but at the cost of trivializing their own political brand, which they had spent millions building.
That's the hyper-effectiveness of the chaos economy.
Which brings us to the core absurdity of the meme economy versus the state economy. Let's do the math on the GDP joke, because the return on investment here is completely broken.
Okay, let's lay it out. On one side, you have the actual measurable effort of crafting complex economic policy. This involves hundreds of highly paid economists, months of parliamentary debate, huge budgets, all to, say, curb inflation by a fraction of a percent.
Or boost GDP by 0.1%. And the immediate, visible impact on an average person's life, it's negligible, often zero.
Right, high cost, zero immediate impact. Now, on the other side, you have a poorly edited meme of a politician looking corrupt. Investment cost. Maybe $5 for the intern's coffee and 5 minutes in an old version of Photoshop.
In 2 clicks.
The immediate, measurable impact on the national political environment. Forcing a cabinet minister to go on the defensive, generating huge media coverage, triggering condemnation in the legislature, and basically dictating the political conversation for a whole week.
Immediate, high, and completely measurable in terms of political instability.
So, logically, we have to conclude that a poorly edited meme of a politician has a demonstrably faster and more immediate impact on the perceived stability of a nation than actual, painstakingly crafted economic policy.
The ROI on political chaos is infinite.
It's financial nihilism translated into governance. Why would any rational political actor invest in complex long-term policy when cheap visual jokes create more immediate, measurable action? The market values attention, and complex policy is just boring.
That is the perfect transition. The market values attention above all else. The cheap production is one thing, but the distribution mechanism, the algorithm, is the engine that makes the whole thing scale.
Exactly. We're moving from the absurdity of production costs to the economy of amplification. The attention economy is the real currency here, far more valuable than the policy debate it's distracting from. Our sources highlight this. They say the attention becomes then a great resource of the digital society in which time is the most valued asset.
We're not paying for truth. We are literally exchanging our most valued asset, our time and focus, for content. And the algorithms, in their relentless chase to capture our time, they just reinforce that selective consumption of truth a la carte we saw in Chile.
They don't care about empirical reality or democratic health. They just care about engagement.
And to understand the terrifying power of this engine, we have to look at this systematic review of the YouTube recommender system. It looked at 23 different studies to figure out if the algorithm actively pushes people toward problematic content.
And the first finding is just staggering. The YouTube recommender system, operating on its own, independent of what you search for, is responsible for 30% of all YouTube video views.
30%.
Think about that. Nearly a third of what billions of people watch is just suggested to them by a machine that's optimizing for maximum time on site.
So a massive slice of global information consumption is being outsourced to a machine whose only goal is to maximize advertising revenue generated by watch time.
It's the largest information distributor on the planet, and it operates with a single profit-driven logic.
And the research found that this logic is absolutely steering people off a cliff. 14 out of the 23 studies explicitly implicated the recommender system in facilitating pathways to problematic content.
And 9 of those specifically found strong evidence of a filter bubble effect. The system actively feeds you more and more homogeneous content that aligns with what you already believe, often leading you to more extreme versions of those beliefs.
So the algorithm sees curiosity as a latent hunger for radicalization, because that's what gets the highest engagement.
Right. It means users aren't always actively looking for conspiracy theories. They're being gently guided there step by step. It's the digital version of walking into a convention about tiny houses and, 3 clicks later, finding yourself at an alt-right rally.
That's the example they use, isn't it?
It is. The study showed users could get to hardcore conspiratorial content from these seemingly innocuous starting points, like videos about martial arts or fitness. It just connects the dots based on behavioral similarity. If people who watch martial arts videos are statistically more likely to click on a certain type of extreme political content, the algorithm just builds that bridge.
The system is basically saying, I see you clicked on this simple fitness video. My data suggests that the most sustained engagement I can get from you is 2 clicks down this path toward anti-government paranoia.
And the failure of efforts to fight this is just as telling. The study mentions that counter-message videos, so material designed to be anti-extremist or factual, can actually be counterproductive inside the system.
Wait, so fighting the fire with water makes the fire worse. How does that even work?
Because of how the recommendation stream is built,
Yeah.
if I make a high-quality, truthful video debunking a popular conspiracy theory, the algorithm just categorizes my video as being about that conspiracy theory.
Oh, no.
So when you finish my counter-message video, the recommendation stream, based on topical similarity, puts you even closer to the exact extremist content I was trying to fight, sometimes just 2 clicks away.
That is the definition of algorithmic nihilism. You invest massive resources to create high-cost truth, and the distribution platform immediately uses your truth to market the low-cost lie you were trying to kill.
It's like putting the vaccine right next to the virus, but the virus is free and much easier to consume.
And the evidence is now conclusive. This cheap content flow has undeniable, severe, real-world consequences. We're past correlation now, right? The research says this is causal.
It's causal. Greater social media exposure leads directly to diminishing political trust, increased polarization, populist advantages, and anti-democratic views. The link is established.
And who pays for this systemic instability? Well, it's certainly not the platforms whose algorithms are profiting from it. The review points out the alarming trend of companies like Meta reducing the resources they dedicate to content moderation.
Which predictably increases the circulation of disinformation.
They've basically optimized for chaos as a business model. They built this huge digital casino where the chips, the likes, the shares are worthless for society, but essential for their revenue. And when it becomes too expensive to track those worthless chips, they just throw their hands up and say,
Moderation is too expensive, so enjoy the free fall into extremism. It's the ultimate expression of corporate deregulation. Why pay a human to curate truth when a cheap algorithm can churn out addictive, destabilizing controversy for free?
It's profoundly rational from a capitalist perspective and profoundly corrosive for a democracy.
Which brings us back perfectly to our initial idea. We have to tie the cheapness of production and amplification to the arbitrary nature of modern trust. We have to address the absurdity head-on.
The currency of clout is experiencing catastrophic hyperinflation right now, and we are all just too busy doom-scrolling to notice the exchange rate has collapsed.
So let's push this to its logical, absurd conclusion.
Let's do it. Let's propose a new, purely digital global currency, and it's backed exclusively by the only value the internet seems to recognize. Likes and retweets, engagement metrics, we'll call them clout coins.
This is the ultimate fiat currency, backed by nothing but fleeting attention and the manic scroll of a thumb.
I foresee a swift, brutal, and hilarious market crash before the white paper even gets published.
Oh, immediately.
The supply shock would be instantaneous and massive, Every content creator in the world would pivot to making the cheapest, highest engagement stuff imaginable. Think of the flood. A million variations of cats reacting to flat earth theories, or more parodies of Minister Cataldo looking lazy.
Or just simple text posts that say, retweet if you agree with this emotionally charged generalized statement.
The velocity of the market would be astronomical. The second a piece of content is published, the algorithm just amplifies it to chase that easy engagement. And since everyone is producing infinitely cheap content to earn these cloud coins, the supply becomes instantly infinite.
And because the currency, our attention, our likes, is backed by something so infinitely cheap and easy to make, the value of one single clout coin instantly drops to zero.
It's hyperinflation.
Complete hyperinflationary chaos because there's no objective scarcity. It's the same economic principle that destroys national currencies when central banks print too much money. When a government backs paper with nothing but a promise, you have faith. When a digital platform backs attention with nothing but a fleeting dopamine hit, the scarcity is destroyed, the trust collapses, and the entire economic model of information is ruined.
And that thought experiment, it isn't just a joke, it's a perfect tragic metaphor for our current information landscape. When the currency of public trust is backed by something so trivially manufactured, hyperinflation of instability is the only logical outcome. We are living in the moment where trust has zero intrinsic value in the digital marketplace.
That's the synthesis right there. We've established that the most effective, highest stakes political information, the weapon that can dictate cabinet appointments in Chile or sway elections globally, is also the absolute cheapest to produce.
The cost of generating political chaos is negligible. It just takes a quick photo edit or a misleading headline from one of those anonymous, diffuse sources.
Meanwhile, the cost of verifying truth and preserving democratic consensus through document reviews, professional fact-checking, sustained moderation is monumental and, frankly, becoming unaffordable for society.
For you, the listener, this means gaining thorough knowledge isn't just, intellectual enrichment anymore. It's urgent self-defense. You're constantly being pulled into a filter bubble by algorithms that are literally trying to sell your attention for the lowest price possible, no matter where it leads you.
You have to be aware of the economic forces that are driving what you consume.
And the consensus solution researchers offer is this concept of epistemic vigilance. I think that's a term we all need to really understand.
It just means you have to be actively cautious. You have to constantly assess the reliability and the intent behind everything you see, especially the low-effort, high-impact visuals. You have to become your own highly paid internal fact-checker.
Epistemic vigilance is basically preemptive skepticism. It's asking, what is the producer trying to sell me? How much effort went into this? What is the economic motive behind this content showing up in my feed?
It's exhausting, which is exactly why algorithms are so effective. They monetize our exhaustion.
And that requires a strategic intervention, which leads us to inoculation theory. The sources point to this as a key strategy. It's not about responding to a lie after it's out there. It's about building resistance beforehand.
Think of it like a vaccine. A doctor gives you a weak version of a virus to build immunity. In the information space, it involves strategies that equip people to assess and refute misinformation before they're exposed to the full-blown lie. It's teaching citizens to recognize the logical fallacies, or even just to recognize the cheapness of the production itself as a red flag.
So we know the lies are cheap, the algorithms are steering us into chaos, and the fact-checkers are fighting an expensive uphill battle. But let's end with a final chilling thought for you to mull over this week.
If the cost of generating cheap lies stays infinitely low, but at the same time, the trust in professional verification remains fractured along ideological lines, and we see this everywhere, with groups accusing fact-checkers of bias even when the data shows they're objective, then how can any society ever agree on the fundamental value of empirical reality?
Right. If that core trust in verification itself is broken, what replaces it? Is the shared, cheap, easily manufactured belief in conspiracy theory, say the lizard people who control everything, is that now more emotionally stable and therefore more economically valuable in the attention economy than the shared, complex, empirically verified belief in basic economic data?
We have successfully built a society where belief is demonstrably cheaper, faster, and more engaging than knowledge. And until the price of truth goes up and the cost of generating chaos is canalized by the platforms that profit from it, we are all going to be living in the hyperinflationary currency of chaos. We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.